Wow, you came back twice? Like that's like I thought, honestly, I thought you're nobody's going to come back twice, but you did. Like wow, this is really cool. So welcome to Voices of Integrity podcast for educators. And I think probably I love I do between 15 and 25 podcasts a week. I think I have maybe 4 listeners among all of them. Like it's like my therapist, she says that these are good and these are good for my mental health. Obviously, you can kind of tell if I'm doing 15 to 25 a week. Like I got some like like you're educators, you all have a sense of humor. Like oh, you've heard about high functioning alcoholics. Like, so, they keep a job and they're married and, they have kids and everybody thinks they're doing fine, but they're really an alcoholic. They're a high functioning one. I'm not saying I might be the highest functioning mentally ill person, or maybe on the planet. I'm not going to say that, but this is like therapy for me in like all my educational years as a student. Like I was a pretty good student. I didn't cause trouble. I mean, so anyways, we talked about in the last one, you know, did you go ahead about drawing a circle and doing, and listing everything out? I don't know if I can quickly find it. I think I might be able to. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find Sarah's, if I can find it quickly. So this will give you an idea. And so Jennifer Tibbs carrying that story on. She had the best year of her career. She loved teaching. It was so awesome. And so doing some of these things that we're going to talk about, they'll work. It's crazy. You wouldn't think they would. They're simple. I don't think you have to get approval for them. I could be wrong. Like, do I have to get an approval to go ahead and take a couple minutes and have them draw a circle and then list what they're passionate about?
Definitely not for me where I'm at. And I'm thinking of like some of the public schools where I did things like student teaching, and I'm thinking that you probably wouldn't need permission. You just have to stick it in as like your morning meeting or something activity, like stick it in a section where it would fit.
Okay, there you go. So here's some of the different, you draw a circle. So you can see that there are different,
Those are so great for kids.
right? This
Yeah.
was an artist, and so you can see her here painting, and then on all the eyelashes are all the things she's passionate about,
That's insanely talented.
right? It's like, whoa, yeah, really. And then here's Sarah, so here's Sarah,
I love
and
it though.
right, and so she's I think 5 years old, or maybe yeah, 3 or 5, something. She's very young. And so she listed out all the things she's passionate about. And so in the center of your passions, center of all your passions, like passions are like fingerprints. Like there's no two the same of the 8 billion people. Same thing. Now, like Marissa and I, we have some similar passions. Okay. And so one is dragons. So we like dragons and fantasy stories and stuff like that. Like that's really cool. Like, so we have some similar passions. But we're going to have different ones, right? And so no two passion circles are exactly alike. And so in the center of all of your passions is your life vision. It's why you were created. Now, we're not going to get into religion or anything like that. You can believe whatever you want to believe. But I'm just saying that, if you evolve from nothing, well, then what are you worth? Nothing. Like if we don't help our students understand, like I just think that, if you believe that there is a creator, whatever that, means to you, if you think you have a creator, that gives you kind of a little edge because then the student can think, oh, I'm special. Now, if they think they're special, which I believe every child is. So my wife and I, we've been married for 40 years. We have 7 kids and 10 grandkids. And, when kids really understand that they're special, like they're created to do something. See, I believe every child in the world is created to do something that no other child in the world is created to do. Like every single person on the planet is created to do something amazing. Like I believe that. If people don't believe that, if kids don't believe that, well, they're going to have some issues. Again, you all been warned about my sense of humor and my one of these days Marissa's going to ask. Well, she might not. She's been warned from my wife and my 4 daughters. Don't whatever you do, don't ask about the social autism. Like, don't.
Mark, I told you I agree completely with that.
Yeah, that's just and so when we look at this, so in the center of all of our passions is our life vision. So Sarah's life vision, I'm here to play and learn.
That's great for a kid though. So
It's
great.
great for me. I'm 61. I want her life vision. Like, how cool would that be? Like, it's a lot cooler than my life vision. My life vision, what I believe I was put on this planet to do is touch every single person in the world, one person at a time, impact them in every year of their life in a significant way and a fun and exciting way. And that's 8+ billion. Like,
That's a lot of work to do, Mark.
what's that?
That's a lot to get done.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'd like to just learn and play. I like hers a lot better. It's like hers is so much. I'm going to adopt hers, I think. So, this here, like anything we can do, like when we get excited. So, when my oldest daughter, she's now married and has 6 kids, precious ones. She's an educator too. And when she was 11 years old, she and I went over to Russia together and we visited like I don't know 30 orphanages. Like it was amazing. And we went into one of the first orphanages and we said we'd like to talk to the kids, you know. And so Ginger and I want to talk to the kids and interact, and they're like, yeah, no, they have ADD, ADHD behavior. I've got 7 kids. I can handle this. My kids are all like they're indigo children. I'm serious. There's proof that there is. If you don't know what an indigo child is, you're better off like that. Anyways, and so it took me like 30 minutes to get through the head of the orphanage and the psychologist and stuff. And it's Russia. It's like, wow. Anyways, I got to the kids. We had so much fun. And it's like, it's like kids, it's like they're born to learn and grow. They really are. Like it's almost like you have to teach them not to be students. They're so cool. Like they're just curious about everything. Anyways, it was interesting in the orphanages in the first 10 or so that we went to. Like all the girls, all the Russian girls, like they were from little to older, and all the Russian girls were very developed, very outgoing, very talented, just really like amazing Russian girls. And all the boys that were they were pre-teenagers and teenagers, they were all kind of laid back and recluse. They weren't outgoing. They were shy and not confident. And I'm like, that's kind of strange. And for all of them, they were like that. And then we went to orphanage. We went to 2 of them, and both in the boys were equal to where the girls were at. Very outgoing and confident. I'm like, this is strange. Like, what's the difference? So I'm curious again. It's like, huh? And so what the smaller orphanages were run by women. The 2 bigger orphanages were run by men because there's, I don't know, 500 kids in it. And so it's interesting on how like when I went to my kids and and they had all these sayings about being nice and obeying and following rules and all that. I'm not saying I think that's important, but we're not teaching them to be entrepreneurs or business owners that color outside the box.
Mark, you would love my recent activity then. I have the social studies curriculum for my second graders not on their level of like it's just text to read and it's not I don't like reading it. So I finally decided that I'm using the structure of what I'm supposed to cover with it. So, I'll meet all those standards, making sure what's required of me. They'll walk away learning it, but I've kind of just branched off. We're in an economics unit right now. And so we just drew up our own little business plans the other
Ooh.
day in second grade. They had to come up with whether they were selling goods or services,
Ooh.
what they were going to be, how much they were going to sell it for, what things they were going to need. And they got to like make little pictures with it. So definitely much more up your alley then.
Right. See, this is where, and with, I have 7 children. We had 3 boys and 4 girls. And so, like, how do you go ahead and how do you help direct the energy and their passions and what they were created to be? And so I believe, like, when people go ahead and say, well, I'm not being true to myself, I'm not gonna, when I use, I have social autism. It's very important. So if I say something inappropriate, you can't judge me because I have a disability. So you have to respect my disability. This is part of the educational system. I have a disability. And so if I say something inappropriate, you have to just go, well, he's got social autism. It's a disability. And so it's like, I just want to go ahead and like when people when people go ahead and say, I'm just being true to myself, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? It's like, see, I think kids have learned how to game the system.
Definitely.
And I think they're smarter than the adults. And the adults are not like our oldest son. He passed away 5 years ago, June 17th. And he was a challenge. Like he was a challenge. And he was like 16, I think 15, 16. And so we brought him into an institute, try to get some help. And I went in and I said to one of his caretakers, I said, listen, this kid is smart. Like he's smart. I'm concerned he's going to be all game the system and get out. And she says, well, I'll talk to his doctor. So the doctor comes in. I said, listen, my son, the kid's just brilliant. And I'm afraid he's going to game the system. And he looked at me and he's like, Mark, he's like, I've got 3 PhDs in child psychology. I've been having practice for 23 years. There's no way he's going to do this. And I'm just like, okay. So I think a lot of times in education, as we get more degrees, we think we're smarter.
Our pride blocks us, which enables kids to actually play the system, which is the thing
Right.
we're supposed to be aware of in the first place.
Right. Kids are freaking smart. And so he's 15, comes in and he sits down and the doctor says, so Jonathan, you've been here for, about a day, just wondered what you learned. And Jonathan looks down. I'm like, oh no, here it comes. He looks down, shakes his head. He said, I've learned that I'm a very manipulative person. And the
Hey,
doctor's like, and the doctor's like, wow, that is so amazing. I'm like, really? I mean,
great.
it just took him right out. And so I think, I don't know what it is, but it's like almost the kids are getting more intelligent on how to manipulate the system to get what they want, but not what they need.
Mhm. Because yeah, I know of a situation, not my class, but where the students are actively discussing and like evaluating who played the system well. And like I know the teacher's not to blame at all. It's administration above the teacher, so the teacher has no authority over the power that's supposed to be the disciplinary form, but the kids are literally just talking about like, oh, you said what? And that worked well. Oh man, I didn't say that. And all the kids who are being honest are getting held to these expectations. So it's literally teaching the kids, don't be honest, be
Right.
competitive. And it's the worst. Like the poor teacher is just in crisis because how, as an administrator, are you letting all of these kids play you and they're aware they're playing you and it's just so bad. But the reality is that especially when we get our own pride with like, well, I'm the authority figure. Like they wouldn't lie to me or something. Like you're setting yourself up for failure. I know that there are times and cases where then a child might get held to a stricter thing. Like okay, you're getting dropped off late at school. That's your parent. Like, there's going to be scenarios where maybe a kid's like parent is to blame and it's not the kid's fault at all in reality, and the kid gets held to a harsher, consequence than what they deserve. But for every one of those, you're getting 10 or more of the other case. Like, you can't,
Right. And that child, that child, the 1 in 10 that's
yeah.
being held to a higher standard, that's life,
Hmm.
And so if there is something with the parents, then we have to work with the kids to help move the parents where they need to be. Anyway, Jonathan, when he was in his 20s, he said, he was talking, he says, Dad, remember that? Like, I remember that. That was not, yeah, I remember that. He's like, do you know what I did? I said, I don't know. He said, within an hour of being in, when you guys put me in, within an hour, I had talked to people who had been in 3 times and out. I knew exactly what I needed to say and to go ahead and get out. I mean, it was like, I mean, it's like, wow. So the second thing that you do, so first thing is, and by the way, did you go through and do the assignment like your teachers, right? Like, did you do the assignment? Did you go ahead and have your kids draw a circle and like, if you haven't done the assignment, don't say it doesn't work. I'm telling you. And we'd love to have you participate in the live session. Like that would be so cool. And what's one of the most exciting things for me to do is when you do what you're assigned to do, you come back and you say, it didn't work, Mark. That gets me excited because then we can look and say, well, why didn't it work? And so there's times we think things are working, but they're really not. There's time we think things aren't working, but they really are. Like this is, anyways, the second thing you do is you get that. Then what we did with Jennifer is we went ahead and had her give the personality masteries. There's a mobile app through Life Masteries Institute. They're a nonprofit organization, wonderful organization. It's crazy, all the cool things that they do. And so what she did is, you don't need to use the app. You can just use manually. So which of these 4 shapes would you tend to like the most? A cube, a pyramid, wavy line, or ball? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then which of these 4 things cause you the most frustration? Out of order, out of control, boring or not fun, and conflict? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so Tom Kuntz, the most recent past president of Century 21, the largest real estate franchise in the world, he had over 140,000 agents in over 70 different countries. He went through a 12-hour course with Life Masteries Institute, and it's an online course on personalities. And he's like, Mark, at the end, he's like, I've been through every personality training under the sun. I mean, he said, I've never seen anything so powerful and so easy as the personality masteries. He's like, it's so simple. In 17 seconds, you can identify their personality. So she did that. You had a question?
Do we have, or is it capable to make a quick little like worksheet that could get printed out where the kids can just mark it themselves? Like, is that something we already have?
We can do that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah,
think,
we could have like on one side we could have the circle if we want, or the
yeah, the
passion circle.
shape.
Yeah.
And then
And
on
so
one, um, do you think that a second grader or a first grader or a kindergartner would be able to fully understand when they're deciding between out of order and out of like you think those words are clear enough for them, or is there a way we can make those words still contain the same weight and maybe just be a little clearer to a little kid? What do you think?
it's totally up to you. Yeah, whatever works. Different kids have different things, and so
Yeah.
you might. you might need to go ahead and out of
Oh,
order. What does that mean? They're probably sharper than the adults,
yeah.
like like the adults are like, well, what does it mean? It's like, I don't know. What do you think it means? Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you can go ahead and tweak it. So you get one, two, three, and four. And
Mhm.
then once you identify their personality, their strengths, weaknesses, what they like, what they don't, turns them on, turns them off. If they're adults, if they're married, who they're married to, you know more about that person in 17 seconds than they know about themselves. And it reveals. So my dad was a pastor, so I grew up as a pastor's kid. And there was a couple in the church that had a 7-year-old that was totally out of control. And they said, hey, can you come over and try to deal with her? I'm like, oh, sure, absolutely. So I come over, and the dad is an expressive, he's a wavy line, and the mom is an analytic. So she's a cube, and the daughter is a driver personality.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, she did. She was a terror. But it didn't take long because I'm a driver too. So I just look at it as fun. And so she wanted structure and discipline, and so each of the different personalities, and when you go ahead and especially get into like teenagers, preteens, when they start getting interested in boys and girls in the opposite sex, when they start getting interested, that's when this stuff really comes alive, because we tend to go ahead, and the tendency is we like other people who are like us, and we fall in love with people who are opposite of us. So that girl, in third grade that you just detest, she might be your wife someday in the future. And you can teach this to kids, like the person that you dislike, that you don't get along with in class, that person can help you the most because their brain's wired in a different way. And then you teach kids how to go ahead and understand other kids. And so the bullies in the class probably are being bullied by somebody else, a sibling or a parent or something like that. And so the bullies are the ones that lack confidence.
Mhm.
And so, I'm not saying it's wrong to teach that we shouldn't bully, but bullies probably aren't going to listen to that because they have other issues. So I think it's better to go ahead and teach into kids how to handle mentally a bully.
Yeah.
If you teach them how to handle, and when you understand personalities, how things are, it helps a child to become mentally very strong.
Yes. Because for the child that's doing the bullying, that's not healthy for them. Obviously, you address and teach them, but getting at the root instead of just what's coming out is crucial. The child that's getting bullied, tough reality, bullies exist in the adult world too. And in fact, in the adult world, nobody is the authority figure to come and settle the debate. Like you maybe in a workplace scenario, like you might have things like I've had a workplace scenario before where it was very much that dynamic and they did get removed. But the reality is that's not every situation. And more often than not, the situations are not going to be able to be resolved by some other, there's not going to be some other figure that's going to step in and say you're not allowed to treat that person that way. So you need to know how to navigate it, how to decipher what's going on. And so it is harmful to kids to not prepare them for what to do in those situations.
Absolutely. So this is one thing that if you go ahead and when you're teaching the kids, and you can teach them this like in 10 minutes, like in 5 minutes. Here's what it is. It's really easy to teach. And so you can teach them that. And part of that teaching is you can expose the mind of a bully. And when you expose the mind of the bully, like the bully wants to go ahead and look strong, but bullying is just weak. They lack confidence. And so when you publicly as a teacher do that, the other thing you learn, and you learn this as a parent when you have more than one child, is the one that's hitting the other child always gets in trouble. Typically, that's going to be the pyramid or the wavy line. They're the ones hitting. What
Mhm.
you learn that really nice children. Okay, so I'm one of the ones that might have hit somebody because they irritated me. So the ones that are the nice children, they did something to irritate the other one. And so as a teacher, you probably learned that pretty quick. And so there's all kinds of things, but definitely we'd love to have a live, a live podcast audience, or you can go ahead and put in, send in your questions or your thoughts or your situations. But you get these two things, these two tools will transform. And I don't think you really have to, like Marissa said, you don't have to get permission. You just incorporate it into something that you're doing. It doesn't
Brain morning meeting. There's plenty of opportunities to do it.
Right. And it's going to help people, and each one of their brains are wired differently. So when they're motivated, so maybe the next podcast, we talk about that and we go ahead and say, okay, so how do you want to motivate each of the different personalities? So what's really intriguing about this, and you'll love it as educators, because you can go home and do it on your spouse. Ooh, it's so fun. Or your kids or other people in your family. Oh, some of the stories we could tell. But what's weird is what causes one personality pain causes another personality pleasure. So you might, as a teacher, you might be actually thinking you're punishing or invoking some type of consequence that's hurting, but you might not be. It might actually be reinforcing the behavior. It's like, well, this isn't working. So always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.